and welcome to Investors Hangout. This fortnightly interaction to help you learn and understand savings and investment issues is brought to you by Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund and Value Research. With me today is Dhirendra Kumar, CEO of Value Research. Welcome, Dhirendra.
Thank you.
Now, what has happened over the past few months is that the international funds have gained popularity. Nowadays it's very easy to spot an investor talking about it. So what do you think is the reason behind this sudden increase in investor interest?
Yeah, more investors are investing in international fund, but we should not lose this. They are not hugely popular. So far, Indian investors have invested nearly 10,000 crore, and some larger Indian equity funds will be much bigger than that. And there are many funds which are bigger than this whole category, so to say. But the primary reason why some of these funds have, investors are beginning to invest is they were actually a very desirable kind of diversification. When the Indian market crashed, these funds did not. And some of these funds, you have this double benefit in terms that some of these investments, Indian investors are able to invest in a set of companies which is otherwise not available to them in India. Global companies of a very significant companies with significant competitive advantage. That's one. The other is that the rupee depreciation is a given over a period of time. Until we have this interest rate differential in the US and India or the international market and here, this thing will actually translate into depreciation of the rupee over a period of time. And this translates into, on an average, about 3 to 4%. It has translated into 3 to 4% gain for an Indian investor. So, you take your rupee, convert it into dollar, invest abroad, and if you take it out, bring it back at a later date, 3 years from now, the rupee would have depreciated. So even if your investment is not doing well, you will still be getting back more money. So that these two things combined together has translated into some superior performance or exposure, and investing in them has become easy. Many investors have, as more and more funds are being launched, some very interesting funds. Nasdaq 100 has become the largest fund. US Opportunity Fund, they're gaining traction. So the investment case for some of these funds is very strong, and that is what has attracted investors.
These investors are probably attracted to these funds because of their recent stellar performance. But what should an investor actually be doing? Should they invest in them? What role do these funds have in an equity portfolio?
Yes, investors are getting attracted to these funds because in recent past they have done well. That is not a great reason why investors should be investing in such funds. One should be investing in such funds simply because you diversify better. The reason why you invest in a mutual fund is the reason why you should invest in an international fund. You are able to diversify. You're able to place your money, and it's an unrelated diversification in a sense that we have our jobs here, we have our assets here, we have our investments here, and we have all our investments here. So a part of our investment not being correlated to Indian market is a very meaningful diversification. So and one should actually take a long-term view because one should think in terms of one should target an allocation to these international funds and think in terms of holding it for many years. Just because they have done well over the last 1.5 years or 2 years, that is not a good reason for anybody to be investing in them. I think the reason why one should be investing is because they are promising investment. They get meaningful diversification, and in the worst, and it should be invested in a manner that it is tax efficient. And the tax treatment of these funds is beneficial only if you invest for 3 years and more.
All right, but what percentage of equity portfolios, how much should one invest in them?
There isn't a formula, there isn't a thumb rule. And I think it could well be, for somebody who's uninitiated, it could well be, 10, 15, 20% to begin with. And something where you can actually invest with convenience to be able to do your SIPs. And if, as investors get more mature and, I think there is absolutely no harm in taking the allocation to 30, 40, 50%, depending on your comfort. And investment should be, evaluated entirely on merit in terms of its potential and your understandability. And if you understand that these are credible investments, these are compelling investments, they hold long-term promise, and you are able to invest with convenience, and you are able to get meaningful diversification, that's a good enough reason to invest. So even in the best case scenario, if for the it might look being venturesome, but it can the allocation can well go up to 50%.
Okay, and how should one go about, choosing international funds? How should one do that?
Investing in an international fund, one should try and keep, two, three things in mind. The investment case should be strong, and you should understand that. If you don't understand simply because our investment is doing well in recent past, that is not a credible reason for you to be investing in it. So that's one, and that itself, and it should be diversified. It should be having a broad-based exposure to markets or kind of companies, which is not narrow. Because we have seen that many a times some of these international funds, they do very well, but they are invested either in a commodity or in a country or in a specific part of the country, or it's a thematic fund, and they do well, and they do well over a period in a brief period of time, and they, for exactly for the same reason, they do very poorly immediately thereafter. So a fund which is able to deliver superior returns consistently over a period of time based on a diversified portfolio, that should be one's choice. And I think you have a reasonable choice today, and many more in the pipeline. There are many interesting funds in the pipeline. Quite a few of them have been launched in recent times, and they yet have to build a history or track record for Indian investors. But those funds are very old, and they have a history of their own. And if you translate all that performance track record into rupee, because they are denominated in some other currency, if you translate them into rupee, then it actually turns out to be a little more superior than their base currencies. So look at a diversified portfolio and a long history.
And how about investing in US specific funds? Because these days there are a lot of concerns about whether the US would continue to do well, and specifically after the sustained bull run. So would you suggest going with the US based international funds?
There are primarily two cases for U.S. domiciled fund. One is that the businesses which you are able to invest, you are able to own through these funds are globally diversified businesses, and the other is the technological innovation that happens there. It has, and the kind of business model that has evolved from companies there. They have virtual dominance, global dominance in their respective area of businesses. You look at some of the brands we are used to, they originate from there. So from that standpoint, I find that the investment promise of the investments of the companies domiciled there is very bright.
Okay, time now to move on to the viewers' questions. The first one comes in from AK Agarwal, who wants to know if it makes sense for a retired person to invest in international funds.
Yes, in fact, it makes more sense because somebody who's retired, they should be investing in equity. And if you should be investing in equity, you should be investing in international fund as well. Simply because they are the only promise for you to be able to beat inflation. Because if you invest in fixed income only, you lose that opportunity, and you just might get safe return, but the ability of your money to protect its worth diminishes. So if you should be investing in equity, for the same reason, you should be investing in international funds as well.
All right, now Anurag Sethi asks, how are the returns from international funds taxed?
It's pretty straightforward. Many a times, I think for a long-term investor, it can translate into superior tax treatment or lower taxes, even as compared to Indian equity funds. The reason is that Indian equity fund, your gains are taxed at a flat rate of 10%, long-term gains, and short-term gains is a flat 15%. In case of international fund, it is treated as a fixed income fund or a capital asset, so to say. So if you hold it for 3 years, it will be indexed, and the indexed gain will be taxed at 20%. So if your fund does well, and depending on the local index or local inflation, it will be adjusted for that, and you'll be liable for paying 20% tax, which on many occasions will translate into lower than 10% tax as well for holding of 3 years and more.
Okay, now Surender Reddy wants to know if there's a way to directly buy stocks of international companies like Amazon, just the way we buy stocks of Indian companies.
Yes, one can buy them, and it has become increasingly, it's become relatively easy. The law is simple. Every Indian citizen is eligible to invest up to $200,000 personally in each account. So you can, and that is a meaningful amount of money that is about 1.5 crore approximately today. And you open a brokerage account, and today there are many brokers who operate or who are facilitating opening their brokerage account here. The only catch is that you should be your ability to move that money. It's just not the brokerage is very low through some of these brokers. The real cost sometimes translates, is generally about your ability to turn rupee into dollar and subsequently dollar into rupee. So that conversion charges, depending on your bank, might translate to be, might turn out to be little painful or very taxing, but it's easy to do.
The next question has been sent in by Vihang, and he asks, what should be the horizon while investing in an international fund? Should one opt for an SIP or a lump sum?
One should be investing in SIP simply because equity turns out to be a volatile asset class. And by averaging it, you are able to overcome the whole crisis that happens if investing a lump sum and facing a decline. But that part, it just fits in with our income cycle. If you earn every month, then you should be investing every month, and a small part of it, or a meaningful or a good part of it, should be invested in a fund. And so I think SIP makes sense. And today you have enough, funds available, international funds available in India, where you can do your SIP, and it saves you, as I was saying earlier, that investing in foreign stocks directly, there is a problem. You have to put in effort in trying to convert your money, use your bank, move that money, and execute your trades. As compared to that, you just do your rupee investment here, and you benefit from those investments.
Nagaraj Patil wants to know if overseas market like the US or Europe will be able to generate enough alpha like an emerging market or an Asian country.
No, I think he's going to ask whether these markets will generate superior returns than emerging markets or the Indian market. And I would say that it is maybe not, because it is the general market may not be able to do as well in the long run as compared to Indian market or emerging market, simply because the promise of growth. But when we are referring to the kind of funds which Indian investors have access to, they are very promising. They are not, you're not, I'm not very confident of, I'm not very sure of generating superior return by investing in a S&P 500. I'm not very confident of investing, generating great return as compared to Indian market in the long term as compared to a FTSE 100. But I would say that the kind of investment avenues available to Indians, the NASDAQ 100, which is a subset of those markets, a more promising part, a high growth segment of the market, and it turns out to be more volatile as well. So the kind of investment vehicles or the actively managed fund of the domicile in US, I think they hold greater promise. They have been able to beat their market by a wide margin. And for an Indian investor, the rupee depreciation translates into slightly superior return. And those markets, they are very well researched, and there the case that active funds are unable to beat the benchmark, the case is very strong. More and more funds are unable to beat the benchmark. So I don't know if you're asking about the alpha from those funds in specific, then they are unlikely to generate that alpha. But the way I understand this question, that will they be able to generate more return than Indian markets? Yes, many of the funds might be.
Praveen asks, while investing in an international fund, should one buy a fund of fund or an actively managed fund? Which one do you think would be better?
It doesn't matter. You should be looking at a fund which you can, which has all the things that you look for in an equity fund. A fund with a consistent history, a fund with an objective which looks promising to you, and it should be able to sustain over a period of time. You should not be investing in a fund simply because it has done well over the last 6 months or 1 year. And based on that, whether it is a fund of fund, that is the mechanics, whether it is a fund of fund, or it is a feeder fund, or it is investing in multiple funds, or it is carrying a portfolio, or it's building its portfolio of international stocks directly, it doesn't matter. The investment case matters most.
Okay, now Ronak Shah wants to send his kid abroad for higher education. So should he invest in international funds for that purpose to hedge rupee depreciation? His time horizon is 21 years.
Yes, rupee depreciation is a reality. Anybody who can recall the value of rupee against dollar 5 years back, 10 years back, 20 years back, or 35 years back, uh, rupee depreciates. And nothing has changed in the financial or the economic system whereby there could be a change in this dynamics. Rupee will continue to depreciate till we have this interest rate differential. So with that thing in mind, if he has to save for his child education, I think it's meaningful. It is material that he should be investing in a fund. But as I keep saying, or as I've said earlier, that you should be investing in a fund purely based on its merits, its potential, its ability to generate superior return. Because if you have an Indian fund which generates superior return, substantially superior as compared to an international fund, you will have more money. Uh, so just for the sake, assuming that you choose a poor fund which does poorly over a long period of time, and it has been able to, if it is able to protect the worth of your money, or it is able to insulate yourself against the depreciation, but the investment returns are not good, it won't work out nicely for you. So keep both these things in mind.
The next query has been sent in by Saif, and his father is 68 years old. He has a corpus of about 3 crore rupees. So where and how should he invest to generate a monthly income of about 1.5 lakh rupees?
1.5 lakh rupees uh, every month means 18 lakh rupees a year, which is 6% return on your investment. There are two ways of approaching it. Investing, building a portfolio, and a conservative portfolio, maybe 60-70% into fixed income, remaining in equity, and doing a systematic withdrawal plan from there, and building these portfolios, building this portfolio with 2-3 equity fund, or 3-4 debt fund of a kind which is not very risky, and conservatively picked chosen funds. That's one way of doing it. The other way is that he needs 18 lakh rupees a year, so he should keep 54 lakh rupees, 3 years income in a fixed income fund. Do a systematic withdrawal plan of 1.5 lakh rupees, systematic withdrawal plan of 1.5 lakh rupees every month, so that he doesn't have to worry about the income. Remaining money can be 2/3 into equity, 1/3 into fixed income. Overall, it will be less, because if you take this 54 lakh rupees into account. But this will give him assurance that he doesn't have to bother about the next 3 years income. And in between, when the market does well, and he's able to generate superior return than inflation, he should take some money out. Maybe annual withdrawal from his main portfolio to supplement his income portfolio. So within a year or year and a half time, he should be able to move another year's income requirement into the fixed income fund. So that way he'll be able to have an absolutely worry-free investment retirement. He won't have to worry about his day-to-day monthly expenses on which he depends upon, and his money will a good part of his money will keep growing and beat inflation, and protect the worth of his capital.
Sarthak has sent in the next query, and he says that being a doctor, his paychecks are irregular and the amount also varies. Some hospitals even pay on quarterly basis instead of a monthly cycle. So where should he park the money for short-term needs when he receives an excess amount?
There are two ways of doing it. One is that parking in a fixed income fund conservatively, even a short-term fund or ultra short-term bond fund, and it operates somewhat. He can get his money at 2-3 days notice, and but there is another way of doing it. I would like to. It is just a matter of uh, uh, playing with your mind in terms of deriving the comfort and building an emergency fund. His monthly income requirement, he should keep investing. He should keep keeping it aside in a fixed income fund till a point he thinks that he has 1 year's income requirement lying there. Once he has done that, then all his regular income will actually become his long-term investment. And periodically he should keep supplementing his monthly income requirement. So effectively he will have 1 year's income requirement lying in a fixed income fund. He will be free from that anxiety that whether he'll have enough money when he needs it. And all his regular income can get into a long-term investment, which will take care of his future needs. And once in a while, he keeps supplementing a small part of it into his income allocation, and keep extending that period from 1 year to another 6 months to another 6 months, as and when he has greater surplus.
All right, now Rajesh Singh wants to know how relevant are PE and PB ratios for selecting stocks? Also, do they have the same relevance for selecting a mutual fund scheme?
For a stock, they are relevant because price earning ratio and price to book value is a critical, is something where everybody looks at. It's a valuation matrix. And but it is meaningful. It is one of the elements because if you look at just low PE ratio in an industry which is not growing very rapidly, so it's a very relative thing, and it is relative in relation to the industry. It is relative in relation to the market, and it is relative in relation to a company's own past. For example, if a company, there are many companies which were growing very fast in the past, and they were commanding a high price, uh, they had high price earning ratio. And over a period of time, they became slow businesses, not as rapidly growing businesses. They matured, and they don't justify the high price earning ratio anymore. So it is a relative thing on all these metrics. So in case of mutual fund, it could be relevant. You find these two variables for every equity fund on Value Research online website. It is a weighted average price earning and price to book value. And I think it is a rough guide to the relative valuation, nothing more. And I don't think it should be a very critical part. You should not be basing your judgment based on this only, but it gives you a rough sense that whether this fund is a value oriented or a high growth oriented fund, depending on the P and PB ratio.
Now, today's last query has been sent in by Shubhajit Majumdar. He has a lump sum of 5 lakh rupees and a horizon of 3 to 5 years. Should he choose a hybrid fund or a debt fund?
If it is for a non-negotiable goal, he should choose a hybrid fund, a conservative hybrid fund. And if it is for a definite goal and he can't really take chances and an important goal, then he should be investing in a fixed income fund.
Well, that's it for now. Thank you, Dhirendra.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our viewers. Do keep sending us your questions and keep watching this space for more information. And if you like the show, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Bye for now.